And welcome back to Daily Wrap. I'm Joe Concha along with Rick Unger, Tom Borelli, and Brad Hirschfield. Well, the Washington Times now reporting that President Obama gave amnesty to a known gang member and 20 other suspected gang members who fall under the DREAM Act. And now one of the illegal immigrants, Emmanuel Hernandez, has been charged, with the killing of an America's top model or next top model contestant, Mira Punjar. On cue, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services now acknowledges that they screwed up and has revoked amnesty. But still, this guy, who is a well-known criminal, almost got through. Will UCIS be able to find and deport all illegal immigrant criminals? Or is that a pipe dream? I think it's a pipe dream. Ira Melman, Media Director for FAIR, the Federation for American Immigration Reform, joins us via Skype from Seattle. Welcome back, Ira.
Thanks very much.
So basically, UCIS has admitted they goofed, but they didn't give any further explanation. Senator Chuck Grassley said in a statement, quote, "It's clear that adequate protocols are not in place to protect public safety. Do you agree?"
Yes, absolutely. As the Inspector General at DHS said a couple of years ago, the motto at USCIS is get to yes. They just want to approve applications. They're under pressure from the political appointees in Washington to approve applications. And, you know, this is not an exception. They released 30,000 criminal aliens in FY 2014, people who had committed collectively about 80,000 crimes here in the United States. And yet this is the same agency and the same administration that wants to convince the American public that if we granted amnesty to the 11 million people who are in the country illegally, we'd certainly be able to do background checks and pick out the good guys from the bad guys. Well, you can't do that. When you have that many people coming through the system, you're just playing Russian roulette with the safety of the American public.
Ira, it seems like things are getting worse before they get better. Regardless of party affiliation, is there anything Republicans or Democrats can do to tackle immigration?
Well, yes. First of all, they can insist that the administration actually enforce the laws on the books. The second thing that they can do, and this is where the Republican leadership failed earlier this year, they can cut off funding for these presidential amnesties. These are beyond the bounds of the president's constitutional authority. The leaders of the Republican Party have all said so. In fact, President Obama himself has admitted this. And yet, when they had the opportunity to defund the president's amnesties back in February, the Republican leadership backed away. So, you know, these are the sorts of things that they can do to tie the president's hands. Because they are complicit in these kinds of events where we discover that people who've gotten through the system go out and commit crimes, including murder, that harm American people.
Ira, it's Rick Unger. I'm curious if you have any facts or statistics telling us what percentage of legal, not illegal, but legal immigrants or their kids end up in gangs, commit crimes, etc.
You know, I don't have any data. People who come through the legal process before they can ever get to the United States are screened by consular officers in their home countries, where they have far greater access to the backgrounds of the people who are applying. Once people come to the United States, we don't even know their true identities. We have to take their word for it. And there's no way that we can verify their activities back in their home countries. And apparently we can't even verify the fact that they've been convicted of serious crimes here in this country.
But Ira, haven't we complained in the past that countries like Mexico, Honduras, other Central American countries have not done a good job keeping records on people in terms of their criminal histories, and that a lot of people have come through to this country legally through their parents most often, and we find out later after they do something that they did have a criminal past?
Well, sure. I mean, there's no doubt that
so those records aren't that much better.
Yeah, look, there's no doubt that people, even coming through the legal process, can beat the system. It's not foolproof, but, you know, at least there is some level of checks there. But yeah, I mean, we certainly need to work more closely, put pressure on some of these governments to establish some kind of paper trail so that we can verify that the people who are admitting to this country don't pose a danger. But you're absolutely right. And part of the problem is just the sheer volume. When you have as many people coming through the system as we have now, more than 1 million every year, and there's backlogs of 4.5 million people, you simply cannot do the due diligence necessary to ensure to the American public that we're not admitting people who pose a danger to American society.
Ira Melman joining us from Seattle, the director of the Federation of American Immigration Reform. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate your input.
Thank you.
Tom is a libertarian. I'm told you are. I'd like to hear your...
Both.
Word
No,
is.
actually, no.
Word
It's hard to
is.
categorize me. But
It was on your name tag.
Okay, I thought so. Right.
Where do you stand on this issue?
Well, first of all, I think President Obama did go too far with his executive actions. I think that is certainly one of the things that first he said. I think even with the DACA, he said he couldn't do it, then he did it, and then he did the follow-up. I think that's a concern, just basically law and order. But I think even more concerning there with them with this issue that he had promised that these people would be interviewed with throw out the bad and keep the good. So. But what the bigger point here is, though, what we're seeing is a massive failure of our bureaucracies. On every level, you can pick a bureaucracy, and they can't function in their basic job. Whether it's the Veterans Administration, whether it's the FBI, who is supposed to be following the Boston bomber, every one of our departments and agencies are failing us. And we need to get accountability so that the American people can have faith back in their government. And the why? As a smaller government guy, it's just too big to manage, and there's no accountability of the bureaucrats. Whatever they do, they get highly paid, they get bonuses, and they can't get fired.
Too big to fail, too big and failing.
Right.
I think that's really a part of it. And the return of trust in the public, whether you're on the right or the left, is the most crucial issue we've got. And the culture of overpromising and under-delivering that is endemic to government right now is a terrible, terrible problem wherever you are politically. And Rick, I take your point. You're right. The legal system also has problems, and lots of people do illegal things who come here illegally. I don't think you wanted to, but I think you were pretty articulate. But the fact that one system is bad doesn't mean a worse system, therefore, is legitimated by it. So, Joe, I think the real question is exactly what you asked. What are Democrats and Republicans really prepared to do? I'm going to make two suggestions. I don't think they're going to happen, but let's at least talk about it. Let's have Republicans stop making this a morality play who want to punish people because they got here the wrong way. And let's have Democrats admit that we don't have nearly the infrastructure they've promised to make us as safe as they say we will be if they implemented all of their plans.
Both these guys did really well. There's not a lot to add to that. I actually, believe it or not, Tom, agree with you. Look, the difference between conservative and progressive is not so much big versus small. It's believing that government can be a force of good versus thinking it can be done better without them. I do believe in government as a force of good, but I don't disagree with anything you said. Right now, our government is not operating well. So there's no, what you said, Rabbi, on the money. I'll just throw in one quick thing. I wish this newspaper, the Washington Times, would stop with the BS headlines. President Obama's policy may have led to this. He did not give these guys amnesty.
And we'll have to end it there. And I'm sure with an election coming in 2016, Republican and Democrats will come together and tackle this issue. Anyway, the guy who shot Reagan wants more freedom, more Daily Wrap in a moment.